What's going on, people? Welcome to another Emotion Football live stream. My name is Alam, and today we are going to talk about the NFC East. This is our season preview series where we talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of every single team in the division of the week. This isn't going to necessarily be where we predict a record or like tell you who's going to win the Super Bowl, but we're going to really flesh out just the key, I think, talking points about every team going into the season. What could work well, what could work not well. Every team has like a window of opportunity, and there's a best case scenario and a worst case scenario. And I think the more important thing is to talk about like what are the things that will go into their best case scenario if that happens, and what kind of things have to happen for them to hit their worst case scenario. So with that in mind, we're going to get started. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Make sure you guys hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Caden is here. What's up? I was able to get 2 more subs in this weekend, so now I'm at 276. Congrats, bro. Keep going. We need more of those shorts and those act outs, man. It'll take you really far. But yeah, the first team we're going to look at is the Dallas Cowboys. We got an interesting offseason for the offense because I think the offseason was more about just keeping everything intact. So you franchise tag George Pickens, you pay Javonte Williams. There wasn't, I think, much work to do on the offensive line in terms of extending people, but everybody's under contract from last year. You add MVS. That's not really a major addition. 7th round pick in the wide receiver room. You got some depth with Drew Shelton, but for the most part, this offseason was about continuity for Dallas. Brian Schottenheimer obviously is not going anywhere. The offensive coordinator, Michael Clayton, also not going anywhere. And I think that's a key part of what they have going on. So Dallas's offense, I mean, when you think about the scope for evolution, you have to think about what happens if players get better, that have a chance to get better. So obviously guys like Dak, even Javonte Williams, CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens, at this point, they kind of seem like known commodities. Even Jake Ferguson, I would say, is getting into that territory. Really, when you look at their offensive line, I think that's where there's opportunity for growth because you do have some younger players with Tyler Booker, Cooper Beebe, and Tyler Guyton. So there's 3 players on the offensive line you can expect some growth from. If you're talking about somebody declining due to age or something, I don't necessarily know if they have anybody old. Javonte Williams, I don't expect him to regress at all. I think that they have a pretty good scheme. I think Michael Clayton is probably somebody that Arizona misses in terms of their ground game. And their offensive line obviously has some upside. So I think you're going to see, truthfully, more of the same from Dallas, unless this is a situation where the full year of tape last year works against Dallas because defensive coordinators have like a whole offseason to study what they do and throw solutions at them next year. I think the only thing that could result in a worse year than last year offensively is just that. But besides that, you're looking at an offense that should be pretty good. Obviously, Dak gets the ball in his receivers' hands. They have weapons on the outside. I think Pickens and Lamb is an outstanding wide receiver duo. People probably don't think the world of Javonte Williams, but in this scheme behind this line, he was effective. So Dallas Cowboys, I expect the offense, which was the strength of the team last year, to be more of the same. I have a hard time imagining this going any other way. The real talking point for this team is the defense. You have to obviously speak about the offense because that's half the team, but this is really where I think the focus has to be, because last year the defense was the downfall of the team. And this year they have some additions. So we'll go through what they did. Before talking about any players, I think it's worth talking about Christian Parker, the secondary coach in Philadelphia who went to Dallas to run their defense. I think Christian Parker, ultimately, you have to say a first-time play caller is an unknown. Like, there's a wild card there. Has the potential to be good or bad. We simply just don't know. Obviously, very, very well-ranked coach in Philadelphia. Very, very highly spoken of by players. But ultimately, the job you do as a secondary coach isn't necessarily going to indicate how you fare as a defensive coordinator, because they are pretty different roles. Now, of course, his position group in Philadelphia did amazing, and Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean looked like veterans out there very, very early in their careers. So, I mean, that speaks well to just, I guess, his ability to relate to players and young players, considering that he's a younger coach himself. But being tasked with coaching an entire defense, I think, is a different story. So that's very much an unknown. But when we get to the players, They traded away Osa Odigizua. So I think their defensive tackle spot, the defensive tackle spot on their defense, when they had Quinnen Williams, Kenny Clark, and Osa, it felt like that was like a standout strength. And I would say now with Ogbania being the replacement for Osa Odigizua, Quinnen Williams, Kenny Clark, LT Overton, Ogbania, I think that's a good NFL defensive tackle room. But it's not like head and shoulders above some, like most teams in the league, like they were when they had Osa. At the edge rush spot. Did not expect that to be a tongue twister. You obviously have the main additions of Malachi Lawrence and Rashawn Gary. Rashawn Gary, obviously a declining player, but still a good player. Definitely not anything to like, not to say that he's washed or anything, but obviously part of the reason Green Bay parted ways is because he's on the decline. Still an upgrade over some of the players they had last year. Malachi Lawrence, you can only expect so much from a rookie, obviously a first round pick, but a rookie nonetheless. And then Donovan Ezeraku, that's the second year player that you would hope takes a big jump. I thought James Houston was effective whenever he played last year. Same with Sam Williams. So I think it's safe to say that Dallas's depth at edge is going to be pretty good. But whether they have the top end talent, like the difference maker, it's yet to be seen. Kind of reminds me how I was speaking of the Eagles' edge room before trading for Jalen Phillips. But that's definitely the case there. Linebacking spot, it's always tough to know what to expect from Overshown considering health. But it seems like a steady linebacker room, like nothing really notable to say. Where I really think things get interesting is the outside corner spots, because this conversation is not going to be about Caleb Downs. Caleb Downs is the nickel / safety. That's a position where there's a lot of versatility in the modern NFL. But the point being, their outside corners being Deron Bland and Kobe Turner is where I get a little bit scared for them. I don't think Siobhan Revelle played that good last year. Obviously, year one off a major knee injury, maybe that is different. But if your outside corners are Revelle, Durant, and Deron Bland, I think that's the weakness of this defense. And up to this point, I think that the worst position group they had is a position group that you could say is average, which is the linebacker room. But I think outside corners where you now look at things and say that, hey, this part of the defense just doesn't look good. I don't think Kobe Durant is a significant upgrade. We saw how he played in LA last year, and a big thing the Rams decided was that they needed to get better at corner. So not a big fan of the outside corners. Jumbling safeties and nickels together. Jalen Thompson, I think the world of Caleb Downs. Like, I think he's going to be a phenomenal player. Jalen Thompson, like serviceable, steady safety. Same with Malik Hooker. So they're pretty steady in the middle parts of the field. Again, I think they've done better. They've done a lot to get better at. They've done a lot better to get better personnel defensively. We would assume Christian Parker is an upgrade from Eberflus, but we can't say that for certain. So while there's possibility of an upgrade there, there's definitely, I would say, a small upgrade from a personnel standpoint. I would almost say like gaining Rashawn Gary and losing Osa is a bit of a wash, but you've kind of just shuffled the deck to even out your defense. So as opposed to having no edge rushers and a lot of defensive tackles, it's a little bit more spread out. But from a talent standpoint, you're talking about one talent walking out the door and another one walking in. Not a huge fan of the D Winters trade. Ogbania, you're talking about a rotational player. Jalen Thompson and Kobe Durant, not particularly like outstanding players. You can only expect so much from Malachi Lawrence as a rookie. Really, the main addition from a personnel standpoint here is Caleb Downs, who I think, again, the world of. So I think this team, again, definitely got better from a personnel standpoint. I don't think it's a huge jump, and I think there's a huge question mark at defensive coordinators. So I expect the defense to be a little bit better. I expect the Cowboys offense to be more or less the same. So all things considered, if we think about what to expect from Dallas next year, we should expect, I would say, a better team. So arrows definitely pointing upwards, but the place to watch here is that does the offensive continuity lead to defenses have an easier time understanding what's coming? Do the outside corners come back to bite them? And is Christian Parker ready for prime time? So that's where we're at with the Cowboys. The next team on our list is the New York Giants, which we will scroll through all these depth charts to eventually get to anytime now. Here we are. Okay, New York Giants. So the New York Giants offseason, The main additions offensively are Isaiah Likely and Francis Maui Noah. So I don't consider Daniel Falele or Lucas Patrick's major signings. That those are like depth moves to me. Juju, Darnell Mooney, Calvin Austin, again, more depth moves. Pat Ricard, obviously an impact player that Harbaugh would probably die for, but a fullback nonetheless. And then when you look at the sixth round pick, offensive tackle JC Davis, that's not like somebody who's probably going to have a big impact on the season. So, Malachi Fields, Francis Maui Noah, Isaiah Likely, these are the big moves to look at that could have an impact on the season. Ultimately, what we saw from this team last year is a team that had some bright moments, but then some other times where things got bad as they picked up injuries. So as we look at this team as a whole, again, you're looking at the same offensive line as last year, but with Francis Maui Noah and some better depth. They have Maui Noah lined up as a guard. I feel like he'll be a pretty effective guard, so I think that's a good spot for him to be at. At receiver, the thing is that like they had Malik Neighbors for so little last year that even just having Malik Neighbors, which is a question, by the way, like we don't know what his health is going to look like. Caden says, I can't believe that Jameis is still playing. Yeah, still a backup quarterback, man. Still out there. Seems to be a pretty well-liked guy in locker room, so that gives you some longevity. But yeah, the offense here, they should get better if Malik Neighbors stays healthy. Cam Scatterbo still hurt, expected to come back, but outside of that, they have the exact same running back room. A lot of continuity from them. As for adding Isaiah Likely, I think Isaiah Likely is good. Don't get me wrong. But the thing about Isaiah Likely is that like he's essentially a receiver. This is not really somebody who you're going to put in as an inline blocker and give defenses no hints about what you're going to run. No, the fact that he's the kind of player he is, he's a bit of a tell, which I think is something that gets mitigated when you're on a team like Baltimore with Mark Andrews, who truly, again, at his peak powers, somebody who could block and be a receiver. So it's a bit less of an issue. That being said, if you're not familiar with their offensive coordinator, we're gonna let that be abundantly clear to everybody watching, because this is a really big deal. Yes, Matt Nagy. Matt Nagy is the offensive coordinator, who, of course, won a Super Bowl with Kansas City, had some success in Kansas City. But if you listen to how they're talking about Eric Bieniemy being back, I don't think that he did this home run of a job in Kansas City and that we can look at him as a different coach, right? Matt Nagy is still Matt Nagy. So I think that like the big thing there is that when it comes to their offensive coaching, I do think there's a drop-off from Brian Daboll to Matt Nagy. I genuinely do. So there's that, right? And then the other side of it is, if you look at the moves offensively that are going to make them a significantly different offense, I think Maui Noah helps. I think Isaiah Likely helps, but I don't think that those are significant needle movers, right? I look at this team like the main scope for like this offense being much better next year is Jackson Dart's development and Malik Neighbors' health. From a personnel standpoint, again, at times they had an effective ground game last year. I imagine more of that could happen with Maui Noah. Obviously, Cam Scatterbo has to get healthy. We'll see how he looks post-health. If he doesn't look like the same player, then there's a bit of a downgrade there, which could mitigate the Maui Noah upgrade. Like that could end up being a bit of a wash. From an offensive standpoint, again, if Malik Neighbors is not himself or he's not healthy, then there's nothing. What? Sorry, I have a New Zealand Egypt in front of me, so if you guys see me reacting, that's what's going on. But yeah, Malachi Fields and Isaiah Likely will not make things okay if Malik Neighbors is hurt. So like when it comes to their passing game, that simply just is the end all be all. Is Malik Neighbors going to stay healthy? And then if he does, that is going to obviously be really helpful, but then it's going to make the other players is going to give them an opportunity to be impactful, right? So you could see Malachi Fields and Isaiah Likely be reasons that the offense is better if Malik Neighbors lets them play the appropriate role. But I mean, look, if Malik Neighbors goes down, then Isaiah Likely might be the biggest passing threat, right? Looking at a receiver room of Malachi Fields, Darius Slayton, and Calvin Austin. And I don't think that it would intimidate very many defenses. So this is something worth keeping in mind. But yeah, offensively, between the play calling downgrade and like the lack of upgrades, I would say to expect more of the same. Like this feels like a wash to me, all things considered. And again, there's the Jackson Dart question of, does he benefit from another offseason and grow as a player? Or does he have a bit of a hit because teams are a little bit more familiar now? Because again, that's not a criticism of Dart as a player, because I think this happens. There's ups and downs in the development of every young quarterback, and you just don't know what stage you're going to catch a quarterback at. So there's that as well. But yeah, no, I expect the offense to have a similar kind of a setup, or like a similar kind of output. Sorry, from to last year. Okay, hold on. I gotta look up the New York Giants defensive coordinator because I just realized. Oh, Denard Wilson. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, I knew it was somebody that's worth talking about. So I think the Giants went from Patrick Graham to Denard Wilson. Point being, I think that they have an upgrade. I think they have a bit of an upgrade here. The tricky thing with Denard Wilson is that he was really highly rated as an Eagles secondary coach the year they went to the Super Bowl and lost to Kansas City. Very, very, very highly rated. He then went to Tennessee to coach the defense, and I don't think had the best personnel. So I think that kind of halted the hype train of Denard Wilson as a coach. He gets another crack here. I would say he's probably a bit of an upgrade. Let me make sure. Hold on. 2025 Giants defensive coordinator. Let me confirm that it was Patrick Graham. No, it was Shane Bowen. Okay, yeah. I think Denard Wilson is an upgrade. But when we look at the personnel here, obviously the Roy Robertson-Harris injury sucks. But this defensive tackle room, minus Sexy Dexy, that has DJ Reader, Darius Alexander, Shelby Harris, like this has to be a downgrade, people. Like it just has to be. You don't lose Dexter Lawrence, albeit on a down year. And your main addition is DJ Reader. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that this part of the defense got better. So we're working with a bit of a drop-off in the middle of the defensive line. At edge, I mean, you have the same trio of players, Burns, Carter, and Thibodeau. So more of the same. If anything, that part of the team gets better because I think Abdul Carter takes strides in year 2. Linebacker room realistically got better if you expect Arvell Reese to just like take the NFL by storm. I don't love Tremaine Edmonds, but Arvell Reese on his own is enough for me to think that this part of the defense is going to be better. In the secondary, the main addition is Greg Newsome, and I don't think that this defense was a Greg Newsome away from being good. That being said, I like Tyler Nubin. I like Javon Holland. Drew Phillips, I think is an up and down player, but is young enough to where there's probably still some investment in seeing whether that pans out. Paulson Adebo is solid. Deontay Banks should probably never play again. The secondary is a secondary that I think is good. Like, I don't think it's very good or great. I just think it's a good secondary. Kind of similarly how I think it's I think it's a good linebacking room. I think they have great edge rushers, but I don't think they have I think they have pretty mediocre defensive tackles. So, I mean, all in all, like it's a solid personnel, but it's nothing special. I think their defensive coordinator made them a little bit better. So I think the defense gets a little bit better this next year. And I think Denard Wilson helps for sure. But yeah, I think I still think that that's not going to be enough to really make the team significantly better. I know with Harbaugh coming in as a coach, people expect like this huge jump. And I just think that it might take more than 1 year. Ultimately, if you look at this team, there's a lot of similarities to last year. It's not like John Harbaugh came in and just all of a sudden got a whole different team and really like left his mark on the personnel. He's truthfully working with a lot of the same personnel. And I just think it'll take time for that impact to be felt. But yeah, I think the defense will be a little bit better. Offense will have a pretty similar output. So we're 2 for 2 now with teams that I think are going to be a little bit better. Yeah, I don't necessarily see huge strides for either of these teams. Is there a link tonight? Yeah, I can run the link. Okay. Next team. Next team is the Philadelphia Eagles, and if you haven't caught on at all, that's the team I'm a fan of. So, if you've been consuming content here and somehow haven't clued in on that, we will be talking about the Eagles, which I talk about from a pretty neutral standpoint. But, okay, big thing for the Eagles obviously is the fact that there's a downgrade in personnel offensively. You have lost AJ Brown. You add Mekhi Lemon and Dontavian Wicks and Hollywood Brown, but there's not a ton of there's nothing here that's going to mitigate what was lost with AJ Brown. And you can talk about a whole lot of off the field stuff and chemistry stuff. And are the Eagles going to have an addition by subtraction situation by losing a locker room cancer? That's pretty hard stuff to talk about as a fan, I think, because you just don't get the insight generally. So we're not going to like sit here and try to hypothesize about whether they got better by getting rid of AJ Brown. With the goal of just talking about football, they definitely got worse offensively from a football personnel talent standpoint. If you want to talk about what I think this offense is going to look like this year, they have Sean Mannion, a new offensive coordinator from Green Bay, who's very much in that McVay Shanahan world, which is the first time the Eagles have had a coach from that system, by the way. Pretty dramatic change to the coaching personnel, the coaching staff. And I think it introduces a lot of questions about what kind of an offense can Jalen Hurts thrive in? How is he going to fare? Blah, blah, blah. Do the Eagles have good weapons? How is this all going to work out? And I actually think a lot of those talking points are kind of redundant because I think this is ultimately just going to boil down to, is the Eagles offensive line going to be healthy? Because they were really banged up last year and it really changed how this team played football and it just didn't work. Mm-hmm. So when it comes to the Eagles this year, ultimately, I think that with a healthy offensive line and in this new McVay Shanahan scheme, that they're going to be able to run the ball really well. And if they run the ball really well, I think Jalen Hurts has enough to work with in Devontae Smith, Mekhi Lemon, Dallas Goedert to have an effective passing game enough for this to be a good offense. However, the offensive line isn't healthy, and Saquon has another okay year, and Hurts is operating this offense from like a not clean pocket and is not able to keep his solid base. Yeah, I think this year could look pretty ugly offensively. So while I think just like I said about Christian Parker in Dallas, you kind of have to look at a first-year play caller as a question mark. Things are definitely a question mark with Sean Mannion, but we're going from Kevin Patullo to Sean Mannion. So the chances are we're going to get at least a marginal upgrade. But again, until we see anything, you can't really take that for granted. For all we know, Sean Mannion could be horrible. But question mark at offensive coordinator. From a personnel standpoint, this offense got worse. So again, it's hard for me to sit here and justify saying the Eagles are going to be a better offensive team next year. Honestly and truthfully, I think that they're going to the way I think it's going to work is I think they're going to have a similar output. It's just going to look different. I think Saquon's going to have a better year. I don't think the passing game is going to be a high volume passing game. I think Hurts is going to be efficient. He's going to be an efficient passer of the ball, but I don't think he's going to be throwing for 4,000 yards or anything. So, I expect the offense to look similar to how they looked last year. So, Caden, I'll let you hop in after the Eagles and just talk about whatever teams you want to talk about from that point. But we got Caden on the stream, people.
What's going on, guys? I have a quick question, though.
Defensively, the Eagles made two big additions, Jonathan Grenard and Reek Woolen. Jonathan Grenard is basically the Jalen Phillips replacement, so that's a bit of a lateral move. But Tariq Woolen is a huge upgrade from Adoree Jackson. So really, the Eagles have a lot of continuity. We lost, We lost Reed Blankenship, but basically our starting safety duo right now of Marcus Epps and Andrew Mukuba is essentially what we had last year from the standpoint of we lost Mukuba, and it was Blankenship and Epps. So the safety room Not like nothing special, but also it wasn't anything special last year. The cornerback room just got a lot better with Tariq Woolen. The linebacking room, losing Nakobe Dean, but basically having Jihad Campbell to play in his spot, I think that's like a, we're fairly level. From an edge rushing room, we have the potential internal growth of Hunt and Nolan Smith, plus Grenard filling in for Jalen Phillips. So you're talking about, the defense staying steady there. And then at defensive tackle, more or less all the same guys, but it's a young room, so there's a lot of room for internal growth. So the thing I like about the Eagles defense is that, it's another year in Vic Fangio's system. You're talking about Vic Fangio, an elite defensive coordinator. You're talking about a bunch of young players that could only get better with Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, Nolan Smith, Jalix Hunt, Cooper DeJean, Andrew Makuba, Quinyon Mitchell. I think that this defense is going to be better than last year. So I think it's 3 in a row. I think you're talking about 3 teams that are all going to be a little bit better than last year. Again, for the Eagles, I don't think that makes them Super Bowl contenders. I think for them to be Super Bowl contenders, honestly and truthfully, the offensive line needs to stay healthy, and Mekhi Lemon has to have 900 plus yards as a rookie. But no, man, I love the look of this defense. I think Jihad Campbell is going to be great. I think Makuba is going to look good. And I think Jonathan Grenard is going to do his job and be a very solid vet. So that's where I'm at with them. But yeah, Caden, joining the stream now. We've talked about the Giants, Cowboys, and Eagles. Is there anything about those teams that you find interesting or you want to talk about?
I actually had something I wanted to say about Saquon.
Yeah, what's up?
So wait, didn't he have when his first season on the Eagles and they won the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
Last year he wasn't that good, right? He didn't really have a good season.
Yeah, no, last year he was fine. It wasn't like he was bad or anything, but the offensive line was banged up. And basically when 2 years ago, Saquon was getting like 3 yards without being touched. And last year he was getting hit in the backfield. So yeah, no, Saquon definitely did not have a good year. I don't think he's all of a sudden a bad player or anything, but a big part of the reason that the Eagles switched up all their coaching staff essentially is because, the scheme kind of broke down. Teams knew what we were running. Teams knew how to defend it. And our offensive line on top of that wasn't healthy. So all in all, definitely not a good year from Saquon. And they're hoping that the new scheme and a healthy O-line next year could get him looking like 2 years ago. But yeah, definitely did not have a great year last year.
Because he had a lot of big runs, right?
Oh, yeah. 2 years ago, like crazy big runs.
And same thing with Bijan this past year.
Yeah, and Bijan's a lot younger, so you'll see a lot more of that going forward. With Saquon, you never know, man. Any year could be the last year of him being really good. But yeah, shall we move on to the Commanders?
Yep, the Commies.
Right. Yep, the last team is the Commies. 0-17. But even if they were 0-17, they'd still have won 2 Super Bowls since you last won a Super Bowl. Hey, man. Oh, shit. Big goal for New Zealand. But yeah, no amount of bad regular seasons will ever fix that. But yeah, moving on to the Commanders, we got an interesting setup here because if you guys don't remember, the point about the Commanders last year is that last year the Commanders were one of the oldest teams in football ever. And as one of the oldest teams in football, they weren't a good team, and they barely had draft picks. So you're talking about an old team that's not good and didn't have a lot of opportunities to get better. So when you look at what they are,
it's a Dan Quinn offense, though. So
a Dan Quinn offense, which is a funny thing to say, but yeah, their offensive coordinator is David Blau. So not only is he an unknown, but he's like 29 years old and minimal coaching experience, similar to Sean Mannion. So again, huge question mark offensively. And they're going, unlike the Eagles, who are going from bad coach to Sean Mannion, or the Cowboys, who are going from bad coach to Christian Parker, the Washington Commanders are going from Cliff Kingsbury to David Blau. So I think the chances are that you're working with a downgrade from a coaching standpoint. Obviously, a part of the reason that the Commanders season fell apart last year was Jaden Daniels getting hurt. But even when Jaden Daniels was healthy, you could see this offense wasn't functioning the way it was 2 years ago. So, I mean, if you look at what they did, the big additions are Antonio Williams, a third-round pick, Chig Okonkwo, De'Ami Brown, and Rashad White. So you're talking about depth receiver, committee running back, and Chig Okonkwo, who I don't necessarily even know was a particularly good in Tennessee. So, I mean, this offense has done not much to get better. It got worse at the coaching spot. I think this offense is going to be worse than it was last year when it was healthy, because I don't think that or Bill Krosky Merritt is going to like become a transcendent player all of a sudden. Like, I think you'll get more or less what you got last year. I think Rashad White is nothing special. Chig Okonkwo replacing Zach Ertz is an upgrade for sure, but not like a huge one. The offensive line is going to be exactly the same. Hopefully, for their sake, that John Connerly, takes the strides that young players do, and he's a better player in year 2. But I mean, Antonio Williams replacing Deebo Samuel, I don't think Deebo did a whole lot, but it's hard to expect a third-round pick to do a whole lot either. I don't see it for Washington. I think this offense is definitely worse. Caden, you got any thoughts?
No, I agree with you. I mean, the Commanders, like how you said, like a lot of like the talent like that they had like 2 years ago is not the
Yeah.
same like how it was last year, and it's probably going to
Yep.
be the same thing as last year too. Depends
Mhm.
on if Jaden Daniels is not injured or not. But I mean, still, if he's not injured, and like they like work on their O line and stuff.
Yep. No, I agree. Like the team is going to definitely take a step back. Going on to the defensive side of things, where Dan Quinn is still the coach, so you have some continuity there. They've made a lot of changes, but the thing is like, and I'll talk through it. I think they added a lot of solid, steady players. And this was a defense that I thought was lacking difference makers. So you got Tim Settle from Houston. That's a bit part, guy who's probably going to play 20% of the snaps, play a lot of rush downs. Somebody that helps, but not really like a huge difference maker. Odafe Owe, this is their big hope. Right? Their big hope, they paid him $100 million, is Odafe Owe shows up and is the pass rusher that the Chargers got from, no, hold on. Which team? I forget which team got which player, but the Chargers and Ravens made a trade for Odafe Owe. I think, the Chargers got Odafe Owe. And he played, Baltimore traded him mainly because he never reached his potential. He had half a season with the Chargers, and then the Commanders gave him $100 million. So they're hoping that half a season is who he truly is, which I don't think is the smartest bet. But their hope is Odafe Owe is good. And in my opinion, I think that they're probably going to get somewhere in the middle of Baltimore Owe and Washington Owe. You're going to get in the middle of one of those two players. So again, solid player, but not a needle mover. Leo Chenal, solid linebacker. Kansas City, really benefited from him being like a really big linebacker that was good against the run, but this is not like a 3-down difference maker that you have to leave on the field. Sonny Styles, I think he's amazing. Sonny Styles is definitely going to be an upgrade over Bobby Wagner.
Mm-hmm.
That's a phenomenal player. Clavon Cason, okay, and somebody who did not have a ton of production just generally in football until he got to the Patriots. So a similar kind of a situation where you have a player that has not lived up to hype, lived up to the hype in one place, and they're now banking to carry that into Washington. So the same way that you have to hope that Harbaugh is not the reason that one guy performed, they have to hope that Vrabel isn't the reason that he performed. Akello Witherspoon from the Rams, that's barbecue chicken right there. Nick Cross at safety. Solid player from Indy, got a lot of tackles. Again, nothing to like shit on necessarily, but not a crazy player. Meek Robertson at nickel. The big thing there is it lets Mike Sanders still play outside, which I think they need him to play. But Amik Robertson, very up and down player. Very up and down player. Okay. You know what's crazy? I actually hear a lot of this I just think that I would have the Commanders much lower, and I'd have the Giants a little bit better. But I actually just don't think the Commanders are going to be a good football team next year. Like, I
Yeah.
think their defense is going to be a little better. Their offense is going to be worse, like not even just a little bit, like, and worse from what the Jaden Daniels healthy offense would have been that we saw at the beginning of the year. No, I think this team is worse. Like, I would have Washington as like a 7-win team. That's the kind of team, a 6 to 7-win team. I think the Giants would be like
No mean
an 8
intended.
to 9-win team. But that's how I have it. So that's where we're at with each and every depth chart. The way I close these streams out is by doing this predictor here.
I
Oh,
have
it saved
the
the results. Okay.
I have the Giants being a little bit like worse than 9-8.
No,
Like
that's fair. That's fair.
I have them like as a like 7 to 8 win team,
Yeah.
and then I have the Commanders at like a about like a 3 to 4 win team.
Okay, 3 to 4 wins. Interesting.
Yeah.
So for the Eagles' schedule, I'm just gonna chip away at the division matchups first. So I'll just say this: I have them sweep. I have them sweeping Washington. I have them splitting with Dallas. So I do think that the Eagles and Cowboys split the division, and I think we split with the Giants because they got us one time last year. We typically have great results against the Giants, but I just don't know if we are. I just don't know if we're going to be good enough. If the Eagles are a great team, they'll sweep the Giants, but I don't know if we're going to see that. So we're talking about a 4-2 record in the division, right? But okay, we go against these teams here. I think they beat the Titans. I think they
Lose to the
split
Bears.
against these two teams. So however you want to put it, I think they split against them. So we could take the W against the Bears, the loss against the Rams. I'm just going home teams here. Jaguars and Panthers. I think we beat the Panthers and the Jaguars. Pittsburgh.
The
Okay.
Battle of Pennsylvania.
I think we beat the Cardinals. I think we split Pittsburgh and Indy. So I'm going to give us the W over Pittsburgh and the loss against Indy. Seahawks, Texans, Niners. What's the record at? 10. Okay, yeah. I feel like we're winning one of these games. And just to troll Brock, I'm giving us the win against the Niners and the loss against these teams. So that brings us to Philly 11-6, which I think is fair. I think it's fair to give Philly an 11-6 record. The next team we're going to look at is Dallas. So Dallas's divisional matchups. I think to kind of switch things up, I'll have them sweeping the Giants because Dak kind of owns the Giants, and then I'll have them splitting with Washington.
With the Commanders,
yeah, there we go. Okay, so I think they lose against Baltimore. I think, to be honest, I think they lose against Baltimore and Houston. I think they beat Tampa. I think they. Is this like a revenge game?
Yeah.
Okay, I think Packers get that game.
Because didn't that game end in a tie last year?
If not last year. Oh, yeah, you're right. It did end in a tie last year. I'll give the Niners the win here. I'll give them the win against the Titans. How many wins are they at? 8-6. We'll give them the win against the Jags.
I don't know. Lost against the Rams and Seahawks.
Ooh. Do you want to have them losing against both, or do you think they get one of them?
I know that for me, definitely lose to the Rams, but I mean, there's a possible chance they could beat the Seahawks.
I already had the Rams losing to the Eagles because Sean McVay's never beaten Nick Sirianni. So I'm going to have the Rams winning here, and I'll have them beating Seattle. Because when we get to Seattle, I'll be talking about my thoughts on Seattle. But that'll be pretty late in the series. I think that'll be the last stream.
10-7.
But yeah, 10-7. Then we have Giants and Commanders. So we'll do the Commanders first. Sorry, the Giants first. Lost there. Giants against Titans. Hold on. This is a Brian Daboll revenge game. I got the Titans getting that win, but I think they win this. I think them and Washington will split.
Yeah.
Where the hell is the other Washington game?
It's
okay, I think they. I think they beat the Saints. I think they lose to the Texans. I think they. Okay, hold on. I think they're losing to both these teams.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think they're splitting this matchup here. So I'll give them the W against the Giants, but I'll give the Jags, and then I'll give the Colts the W there. And then they beat the Browns, and then I think they lose to the Lions. So that puts them at 6-11. Damn.
Yeah.
That is a lot lower than I would have expected. Hold on, let's look at all their losses. So Cowboys loss is fair, Lions loss is fair, Seahawks, those losses are all fair. Eagles, oh man. I mean, outside of the loss to the Titans, this is not an easy schedule. Like, there's maybe 2 games I would flip, and even that gets you at 8 and 9. So shit, maybe the schedule stops them from being the team I think they could be. But 6-11 is what we have right now. Let's get to the Commanders, where I think it's going to be a lot worse. All right, Commanders. Oh, that's an L. That's an L. That's an L.
That's an L. That's an L.
Ooh, Bengals. That's an L.
Yeah.
Okay, I think they get a couple wins here. I think they can beat the Cardinals and the Titans. That's an L. You know what? Cadence here.
L.
That's an L.
Yeah.
What is that? 4-13. I'm very comfortable with 4-13 for Washington. I forget what I said. I thought their record would be, but 4-13 is completely fair.
Yeah, I said they would have about 3 or 4 wins.
So that's where it's at, people. We got a little. How many divisions are in this prediction?
Tie. You tied the Eagles.
Who the hell? Where the hell did I give the Eagles a tie?
The first game.
No, hell no. Hell no. But that's that, people. So we got the prediction table here that we're loosely working on. I'll have to fill out the divisions that ended up not being selected. But we'll definitely work on that. And yeah, we're gonna keep chipping away at this. So hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. This is the Sunday Night Football streams. We run these every Sunday night. So next week is gonna be the South. So we're doing AFC South next week, and then NFC South the week after that. Yep. So AFC South, we're gonna be talking about the Colts, Jaguars, Titans, and Texans. So yeah, every Sunday night we pick a division. We talk about it in this way. We look at every team's offseason. What are the big changes? What do we like about the changes? What do we not like about the changes? Do we see the team being better or worse? We do a little prediction, record prediction at the end. But yeah, Sunday nights are for football. We know that September through February, but we lose track of that a little bit in the summer. Get back in the swing of spending your Sunday nights roughly around 8:30, talking and watching ball. Getting back into that rhythm a little early, people. So yeah, we're going to be running these into the end of July, and then I'll probably find another way to occupy Sunday nights, people. But Sunday nights at In Motion Football are where it's at. Make sure you guys tune in, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel.
Subscribe to me
as well. Tap into Caden Willis comedy, borrowing from Tom Grassi, I see. But click the link here, go to his profile, hit subscribe there as well.
Yeah. We live stream Monday night and Thursday night games during the season. So
hell yeah. We will be there. But yeah, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and we will see you next Sunday night. We're out.
Peace.